What is up, RotoGrinders? Yes, we are live 4:30 on the East Coast because this slate does start earlier. 6:35 is first pitch. Crunch time coming in earlier as well, around 5:55 on the East Coast. You got myself and Head Chopper. It's a big boy slate. It's just the two of us. It's an intimate slate. Chop, of course, returning champion from yesterday. Chop, happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. How are things in Chop's world?
What's the special thing today? Like sometimes it's trivia. What we do anything today?
Read the screen. It's scrolling right there at the bottom.
No,
it is Wheel Wednesday. We're spinning the wheel.
That's no fun for us.
There's no trivia. Did you want some trivia? There's no. You never seem to come on Mondays or Thursdays. You don't really get to play along with.
I don't write the schedule, but yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. One of these days, you know what, Chop? One of these days, I'll have a special athletes or movie Wednesday or whichever day. Just make sure you give me a heads up. And I imagine that people will be they'd probably prefer that to the wheel. I don't know. Some people like it, some people don't. Who knows? But we'll make it happen for you, Chop, for sure. And I'll do my best not to make it super, super obvious that I'm catering the movie or the athlete towards you, because then that will be really, really easy for the people to guess. But yeah, now that you mentioned it, jump in the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord, live stream chat channel. Producer Steve, I'm not sure if he's posted it just yet or if he's about to post it, but he will post and just put click the avatar and you'll be eligible to your name will be thrown in the wheel. And now there's allegations of the wheel being rigged. That's today's poll. I can't imagine which way this is going to go. Producer Steve just dropped it. Is the wheel rigged? It is not officially, but do you think it is? Yes or no? Feel free to vote in today's poll, and get your name on the board, on the wheel, and you can win yourself a week free of RG Premium. Also, by the way, you can go ahead and pay for it. You can do that as well. You can buy RG Premium for you commit for 6 months. You get $250 off the top, as opposed to going month by month by month by month. You just want 1 month, you get $40 off. You just want 3 days, you can get that for $19 and change. And also, if you're not currently an RG sub, you can see a banner. There's a banner that will show you if you want NFL a la carte for the NFL season. Everything else obviously is all the sports: football, baseball, basketball, hockey, everything you can think of, with the exception of NASCAR. But you can get NFL just by itself for a special deal. I believe it's $2.99 for the season. Do not quote me on that, but just click and check the banner. Let's see, how many likes do we need to spin the wheel twice? The tricky part is we spin the wheel after pitching, so like halfway into the show, not even halfway into the show. So a challenge to the people in chat: if you want the wheel to be spun twice, rigged or not, we get to 100 likes, we'll spin that wheel twice. We'll give out 2 individual weeks free to RotoGrinders Premium. There you go. Chop, we got the knockers coming, and we have the BBP suggestion. We have all the goods, I assume.
We have everything that we need for today. Yes, I've got everything. Just need some likes. So we got, first off, Dean, I need at least one more hit, run, or RBI out of Josh Bell to hit the 3-teamer on DK Pick 6. So we need Josh Bell to do something in these last 3 at-bats. That's how tricky it is for baseball. It's so weird that, you come out there and you grab you a run scored real quick and you're looking good, but you've only got 3 opportunities for the rest of the game to make it happen, So it really doesn't. It feels like there's a lot of time left, like it's the 3rd inning and I got all this time. Josh Bell will get there. He's only got 3 shots at it, right? So it's going to be tough, but I need that one. And I'm seeing Mr. Gerg in chat point out 10 days till college football. I'm glad he said that. We did have a little, we had a little, I don't want to say a full-blown meeting or anything, but it was a little bit of talk in the Slack about how we're going about our business this year in college football. So we're getting it ready. We're getting the survey lined up with the right questions. We're getting the rankings lined up with the right people. It's here, man. We're talking about it in Slack.
Anything new that's worth breaking news on, or are you still kind of figuring it out?
I don't know about new, but there is a new member to the team, the college football team this year. Somebody I specifically I have followed his college football content for years on another site and, through social media. And I was very, very very excited to have him, kind of become a free agent. And then
Has this been announced?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagine so. I've seen him in Discord, so he's got to be like, he got to be. But I was excited that he became a free agent, and I was like, man, we should really reach out to Jordan. It's Jordan Van Eck, and
Okay.
he used to be at the 33rd team, and he does man, he's got some in-depth stuff. Like he's going to be awesome for college football. Like he's going to break things down like they do. Like everybody breaks everything down for the NFL. Like you got all these tools for the NFL. This kind of coverage and this kind of coverage, and they run 3 wide receiver sets this much. And like everything's for the NFL. Nothing is catered like that towards college football because it's too hard to find that information and too expensive to get into those kind of subscriptions. He's going to do a lot of that, man, and I'm very excited for that.
All right, welcome, Jordan. These are not. I'm not that familiar with college football stuff. There you go. There's Jordan's Twitter. Look at the producer Steve on top of it. But yeah, I will dabble in the college football streets. I like to pretend like I know what I'm talking about college football sometimes with touting UCF. Wearing the hat today just by coincidence, but it's not really my world. But I will dabble. It's fun.
Oh, you should be excited this year, Dean.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that should be a good year. They got yeah. Well, we'll see. At least if nothing else, their offense should be fun. They should have a fun offense.
Oh, it will be. Absolutely will be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't even tell you their schedule offhand. I have played with them a little bit with NCAA 25, of course, because I'm still a child. But I know, and I have time, so I can definitely dabble in those streets. I played my friends online, and neither one of us are that spectacular. But that's you got to play down to your competition, I suppose. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Have you done the best ball stuff? I know you're not a best ball guy, but I would imagine there's edge in best ball for college football, but I can't speak to that specifically. Like I've not actually played that out.
I mean, I had to jump into the underdog best ball street when they released it, and you had to jump in early because it literally filled in about 3 weeks.
Oh wow!
It was no time at all, and it was full, and so you had to jump into that one early, and so I jumped into about 40 slow drafts, and we're coming up to the end of all of them now. They're all like, in around 17 and 18. So yeah, you got to jump in. It filled up. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a good year. I got a feeling. Now don't quote me on this. I have no inside information except for the feelers that they've put out. But I think Underdog might be doing the weekly college football too, just like they do for NFL and the nightly NBA. They? Exactly, but I'm thinking they're gonna organize that this year, so should be an extra avenue there for college football peoples.
I see. Nice Kevin in chat said, yeah, it was announced. Talking about the announcement, he was thinking Neil. Neil was not doing college football. He's just doing Neil Orfield's doing a Sunday content, some written content as well, some RG content to welcome him to the team. But yeah, that's not who you were referring to. But he'll be on air on Sundays. I think he's going to be on the expert survey and doing some content here for RG. But okay, 11 gamer tonight, Chop. Another slate where the pitching is not spectacular. Another slate where Dave Potts, Cheeseisgood, he'll be on later, as well as Kevin Roth, of course, and STL Cards, Justin Van Zuiden. The old Robbie Ray rule. Dave Potts tells us, or at least that was the rule. He's just come back. We've actually had the full Robbie Ray experience. If you look at his stat line. One of those dudes where you're supposed to not really play a ton when he's super popular and get in on when he's not very popular. Well, he's going to be popular tonight, but you can't just push a button and say, well, I'm not playing Robbie Ray. And if he does bad, things are good for you because you have to say, okay, who am I playing instead? Which is kind of the tricky part. We'll get into it, but the walks have sort of creeped up, but the strikes are there too. And that's the experience and a lot of fly balls. And he's someone protective of that ballpark there in San Fran, facing an Atlanta team, expecting Michael Harris back tonight, which love seeing Michael Harris back tonight. I'm a fan of him, but he's been dreadful versus lefties, and I hope he cracks the lineup because I'm rostering some Robbie Ray, and I love his chances versus Harris tonight. So I think that's one of the biggest sticking points. I guess we'll talk about that in a second. Yankees, once again, most popular offense. There's 4 or 5 or 6 other offenses you probably can make an argument for being the next best, next in line. We'll have that conversation with our rankings later, but before we delve into pitching, just you got the screenshot here, Chop, the overview. How are you seeing tonight's 11 gamer? Did mention Roth. Not a lot of weather to be concerned with just yet. If anything pops up, of course, Roth will be all over it. But everything seems pretty clean, according to the weather report. Roth will update you in an hour or so. But as far as I can tell, no concerns weather-wise. Nothing really popping on Weather Edge either. Weather is kind of irrelevant this evening for the most part. But Chop, go for it. Give me the overview.
For 11 games, have we ever seen a pitching slate this bad? I don't know. Like it's in contention for 11 full games. By the way, what a crazy cutoff point that Central Time 6:05, which is what it usually starts at. And then you get those games that start for some reason 20 minutes early sometimes. And they threw a cluster of those things in there starting 20 minutes early. So now we got to suck up a whole 11-game slate where they should have just kind of like some of those games should have been at 6:05 and
show up early. Well, our show started early because of it.
Yeah, man. Throw everything. If you're a man of routine, this throws everything for a loop right here. But yeah, 11 games, man. I don't know that I've seen a pitching slate this bad in general for 11 games. It was hard to find. I mean, the guys I've picked out as pitchers tonight that are going to be in my pool on a normal slate, I have no desire to mess around with that. And you got to play some of these guys tonight. I mean, we're going to get into it, but you got to play some of these guys, and there's some reasons why. But it's just an awful pool. And when I was ranking the teams to stack, whole lot of teams, man. I had to go back and do a double proof through, so I didn't have so many teams in tier 2. Like that's how poor the pitching is, and how I don't want to say how good the hitting is. That's a product of the poor pitching, but yeah, it's a weird slate, man. This thing's going to be won by, the hitting. It's not going to be won by pitching. I think the pitching is all kind of tossed together and jumbled up. I don't think there's anything that really stands out.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way. There are some outliers we'll discuss, some uncomfortable stuff we'll discuss. You mentioned have we ever seen an 11-game slate this terrible when it comes to pitchers? 4th game of the season, 5th game of the season. That slate's usually really bad as far as pitchers. But I understand, basically, you get everybody's number 4, everybody's number 5, that kind of thing. Eventually, you're getting 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s as everybody's rotations shuffle up. But yeah, it's not great. Robbie Ray, the sample's not huge, 20 innings though. The Ks are there, 33% Ks, swinging strike rate 15.4%, clearly the best on the slate. Not even a conversation. But the walks are there, 10.7%. That's troublesome, and the fly balls are there too. But again, I think that's somewhat protected by his home ballpark now in San Fran. Instead of giving up homers, the ball theoretically will die on the warning track enough for him to not get his face punched in. So Ray is he's chalky. He's the most popular pitcher currently right now as far as our ownership stuff. 36% chop, and then nobody else is getting anything higher than 20. We have Grant Holmes getting 20% in San Fran, same ballpark. His numbers are tricky because a lot of his numbers include relief pitch stuff. And, you're going to throw harder coming out of the pen when you only have to deal with like an inning or two, that kind of thing, as opposed to pacing yourself. But his numbers are good, 27% as far as Ks. The walks are great at 6%. And the one big number that we got from him is that how stretched out he was last start. I think he threw 90-some pitches last time. Let's see, 98. Yeah, he jumped up to 98 pitches. And he wasn't especially good, but it's just good to see he threw 98 pitches. 98 pitches in San Fran in that ballpark with his K rate. Again, I would pump it down just a little bit, pump the brakes a little bit, because now he's starting, and some of those numbers include relief starts. I'm curious. Well, the second highest K rate is in the slate that just nobody's going to play. Do you know this off the top of your head? You might know this.
Yeah.
This is the guy you're going to play. This is the guy you're going to tap.
I don't know that I'm going to play him, but
it's interesting.
I don't know if we're looking at the same time frame, but DJ Hurst is up there.
Yeah, that's who I'm looking at. Yeah. I'm looking at the entire season. You like to look at like last 30 days, that kind of thing?
No. I mean, I'll get some numbers for the show, but like at this point in the year, I think we've had enough. I'm kind of just looking at this season,
Mm-hmm.
So there was a point in time about a month ago where I stopped looking at the combination of 2023 plus 2024. Now I'm just at 2024. But for the sake of the show and trying to find some people who are, pitching better right now, I did look at some numbers from certain time frames recently.
There's kind of a cluster, right? DJ Hurst, 29% K rate, of course, tough matchup in Baltimore. But the Ks seem pretty real. Swinging strikes, 12.7%. Another guy giving a lot of fly balls, ton of fly balls. And again, Baltimore, especially to righties, that ballpark is a little bit trickier to bang out homers. Of course, Baltimore doesn't care, and they do it anyway. Edward Cabrera is the other kind of sort of interesting tournament play, especially on DK where he's 6K. Lots of strikes, a lot of strikeouts and a lot of walks, right? It can go either way. And too many homers as well. 1.63 homers per 9, 12.8% walks, 28% strikeouts. So it's one of those deals that I was running 150, and I'm not. But if I was, I'd probably be over the field on Philly and be over the field on Cabrera, and just hope for an outlier one way or the other. I saw you give like a head nod there, Chop. Is that the guy? Is that the SP2 we're gonna, the sphincter clincher?
I don't know who the SP2 is gonna be like.
Okay.
It can be anybody, but I've just highlighted some guys that are in the pool and in contention, and he's one of them. And yeah, none of these guys feel comfortable. I mean, I don't feel comfortable with Robbie Ray, and he's the clear-cut number one guy. Like the Braves against lefties can still get hot. They still have a lot of power, and Robbie Ray certainly not. So nothing feels good tonight. But yes, Cabrera is in the mix as an SP2 based on that strikeout. I think Trey Turner's out tonight. I don't know. God dang.
Turner's not playing? Did I miss that?
Maybe that was yesterday. I'm getting, these shows run together when you do them back to back.
He's not playing tonight. You're right. Yeah, okay. Castellanos is batting second.
And not to mention the fact that Philly's just flat out struggling anyway right now. They're in a deep, deep slump since the All-Star break. So it puts Cabrera in play, who's absolutely been massive for a few starts in a row now. So you got that going for you. We've talked about some of these other guys. Brian Wu, he's in the mix.
He feels safe, right? I'm doing the air quotes. He feels pretty safe. But what's his ceiling?
He struggles against the lefties. That's his big thing, is a struggle against the lefties. But this is Detroit, and Detroit's I'd rather be in Seattle, but Detroit's not a terrible place to play if you're a pitcher. And he's up to the last two starts, 92 pitches, then 88 pitches. So he's up to that 90 pitch mark. So he should be fine. If he's rolling, there's absolutely no worries about him going 6, maybe 7 innings. So yeah, he feels kind of safe. There's a bit of upside against Detroit. You can get some strikeouts in that lineup. So he's in the mix for sure.
Terry Carpenter's back. There's no Riley Green, but Carpenter's back. Like, they were looking really bad when both those guys were out. Carpenter's one of their better hitters. Parker Meadows, one of their better hitters versus righties as well. I'm trying to count the lefties. Carpenter, Keith, Madras, Meadows, McKinstry. I believe that is 5. There's 5 lefties as far as Wu. Yeah, his K's take a bit of a hit, 18%. Not that it's a K guy versus righties either. 19% in total. Great control, of course. 2.7% walks on the season. It's just an insane number. Like you said, if he's efficient, if BABIP's on his side, he's a guy that can go 7 innings in 84 pitches, in 80 pitches. Several people in chat are talking about Spires. They have an opener, right? Are we officially certain? Pagan is opening for Cincy. Are we certain it's going to be Spires following him? That is the presumption. Never really liked that. I haven't seen an announcement. Maybe I missed it. But they have a Pagan as their opening pitcher today, and I assume it's Spires coming in after. He's not really in the mix for me, but several people are touting him up there in chat. Is he somebody that's on your radar? 7.4 on TK?
No, I don't really get into unless I'm 100% sure of what's going to happen with the next guy coming into the game. I don't like to take guys who are going to join the game after the second or third inning and get an opener put on them. You just don't know what's going to happen and how it's going to shape out. So I don't trust managers that much unless I'm 100% certain of what's happening. So no, he's not in the mix for me. But I do see another name in chat, Dean, that, man, did I not want to put this name in my pool, but I have to. It's Tyler Anderson. Andrew points out Tyler Anderson. Boy, he was the last one I added here, right up, bumping up against the show. I didn't want to, but it's a thin pool of pitching. Over his last 6 starts, he's got a 28% K rate. A lot of it's because, he's getting that changeup is working for him. So he's got that going. He's in those six starts, Dean. Here's the thing about him. Weird, because we always want to stack against him. How can he keep getting away with this and all that?
Mm-hmm.
But if you pitched him in the last 6 starts, 4 of those were GPP winning performance. Like, you could have won a GPP with that guy. He would have helped you win a GPP, not just been along for the ride, right? Like, he would have helped you win. He put up some great numbers at pretty low salary. So, yeah, he's in the mix, man, against Toronto, who is kind of a one-man show right now, to be honest with you.
They're not very good. I keep getting the Jesse Pinkman. He can't keep getting away with it gif with Tyler Anderson. You look at the seasonal numbers like you referenced. He's got a 2.99 ERA. He was an all-star this year, and good for him. But, like, under the hood, it looks like, regression monster. The regression monster keeps getting lost. It needs, like Google Maps or something. It just cannot seem to find Tyler Anderson. But we're talking about a 237 BABIP that is really, really lucky. A left on base at 83%. That's really lucky. Nicely done, producer Steve. 9.4% homer to fly ball. That's pretty lucky as well. And you add it all up, and he's got a Sierra almost at 5. It's 4.78. But, like, again, you can just, like you're saying, look at the numbers, look at the results. They have been good, and they have. And he also had a couple of ceiling games, which you don't really expect out of him. Struck out 10 guys for Oakland, like you mentioned in that run, 8 guys for Seattle. I rated this at 10 Cubs as well. I don't think I played Tyler Anderson all season. If I have, I don't recall. It's probably happened because you do this long enough, you play everybody. But I feel like I'm always pot committed to like not playing him, which is why I won't play him, and that's a terrible reason. And I also just like, again, the overarching numbers suggest, and the counterpoint, you said it. Well, Toronto, is that the team that's going to bring out the regressor monster? Probably not. Springer's fine. Guerrero obviously has been spectacular, but the rest of these dudes, Stewart, Baroa, Leo Jimenez, it's just the projected lineup, but the guys that would replace those guys are just as bad. It's not spectacular. Left on left with Varsho. There's really not a lot going on in Toronto. So maybe he gets away with it one more night. Like, why not? I don't know what to do with that situation, but I don't think I'm playing much Tyler Anderson. I might play him begrudgingly, more so because Toronto's lineup stinks. A couple of guys that are not playing baseball tonight. Don Easy telling us no Steer, no Rooker for Oakland as well. If you're on David Peterson, did not go well last night for God. What was the guy's name? He has no revenge in his heart. The dude that pitched for the Mets.
Blackburn. What a bum, dude.
Confirmed, not vengeful. Definitely not vengeful. There's no John Wick in him for sure. But now David Peterson, they said he's going to be chalky in chat. Is that? I don't know how. I don't think anybody's really chalky after Ray. Ray 36%, Holmes 19, Peterson 19. The Blanco one's really interesting, Chop. I was going through. I hate being game log guy. I hate being game log guy, but like every single start this year, like he's at no point did you roster Blanco and just say, well, my night's over because I roster Blanco. I think he had one bad start. And every other start he had this season, at least 10 DK points. Now, I'm not saying you want 10 DK points, but he's not like completely imploding you.
Yeah, I tell you what, on night like tonight, you might just take that 10 DK point. You never know. That 10 DK point might be like go. Yeah, it's like you're not going to roster him. If I told you right now he was going to get 15 or less, you don't roster him. But there's the possibility. There's safety, and there's the possibility because it's Tampa Bay now, and they're struggling since the trade deadline offensively. And he's another guy. I haven't played him since that price tag went up over 9K. I have not. I played him early in the season when he was cheap, but once that thing hit over 9K, I stopped playing him. But tonight, he's got to be back in the mix, though, just because of the depth of this pitching pool is so shallow, and he's just there with this competition. So, yeah, I agree with that one being a guy you could play that I normally wouldn't play.
I feel like his price is still reflecting his no-hitter he threw on opening day. I guess it was an opening day. It was his first start. I don't think it was opening day because he would not have been the opening day starter. But I feel like the price has not come down because of that. It kind of out of nowhere. Nobody anticipated him to be, where he's at. You tell me. You have a bigger, closer ear on Houston stuff. Like you said, Tampa just loaded with strikeouts. The Lowe brothers strike out a ton. Siri in there at 38%. DeLuca 24%. He's not showing much pop at all when he hits the ball. Roitvet doesn't look very good either. 25%. Lots of Ks there in that lineup. 27% Ks versus righties. And see, I feel like the Tampa cannot get that left-handed. They have 1, 2, 3, only 4 lefties. So there's 5 righties. I just think there's an opportunity for him to strike out like 9 tonight. So he's in my pool. I don't like that price. I think he's overpriced. But, what are the alternatives? And if I have the money, I'm okay to go there. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else we should mention that chat's fired off on us. Do want to also mention, what do you got?
Have we talked about Grant Holmes? His name has been thrown in chat. Grant Holmes.
Yeah.
Go
ahead. What is your thoughts? I talked about him, but I don't know if I yield it to you.
No, I think he's definitely playable tonight. He's been pretty solid. He's San Francisco's not this great lineup. He's cheap. It's a bad pool of pitchers. There's upside there in his game. He's got a nice little 95-mile-an-hour four-seamer that seems to be really, really good in the major league level so far. He gets it up and into right-handers. I think there's a path for him to be on a night like tonight. He could end up being like a top 3 scorer just because it's so weak and weird. So yeah, it's a big ballpark. I don't think the weather. There's really never any weather in San Francisco that makes it a big-time home run fest or anything. So you should be good. I think Grant Holmes is definitely in the mix. That was a couple guys had mentioned.
He's got that Kenny Powers hair too, which I think should,
why not, man? Yeah, you got to. Speaking of Kenny Powers, spoiling our we can make our tier rankings might have something to do with Kenny Powers.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. We kind of yesterday's topic, we kind of grew out of it, so we sort of branched out on it. Unreleased lo-fi music says, can you all talk about FanDuel? Yeah, so Ray is still the most popular pitcher over there at 20%. You got to pay 10-1, which is kind of reasonable. Will Warren is, I think, an interesting name we should talk about. Awesome matchup there against Chicago. If you want all the bats, he's 6K on FanDuel. He's worth a conversation on DK as well. We're showing 14% for him. Of course, the matchup against Chicago looks really good. Lots of strikeouts in the minors. Really good control. I think he gave up a lot of homers, which is a little bit troublesome. But again, this White Sox team, not great. And if he can survive 5 innings, he probably gets that W as well. Not certain he gets the quality start, which you like to have on FanDuel. But I think I have Holmes ahead of him. Holmes is 6-1 on FanDuel. And they're kind of neck and neck as far as ownership, 13, 14%. Do you have a preference amongst those two, FanDuel specific? Holmes versus Warren. They're both 6-1, or 6K essentially. And then you can have a lot of time with a lot of fun with the bats.
Yeah, so FanDuel is a slate tonight where I don't mind like totally punting pitching. When I say punt, you take the best option available at the lowest salary. Most of the times I want to make sure I get a very, very quality pitcher on FanDuel. I don't mind taking a shot on one of those guys tonight. If I had to choose between the two, it's going to be Grant Holmes, but I was going to bring up Will Warren anyway. It's only been a couple of starts. Okay, so the Yankees are going to sit Stanton and Ben Rice tonight. So you got that going for you. If you're into this White Sox kid, Davis Martin, Dean Martin's nephew. If you're into that, then you got both. Dean Martin's. I think Will Warren. Yeah, I was going to mention him. It's the White Sox, man, and we can't judge this guy by 2 starts in the big leagues. Some of the stuff isn't working right now. The sweeper isn't not working at the big league level, but that'll all iron itself out. Yeah, I think Will Warren is in play, but between those two, it's definitely Grant Holmes. But I don't mind the going super cheap on FanDuel at pitcher and loading up with your bats.
Did I miss the Yankees have their official? Have they released that, or did you just kind of see like a tweet where like those guys could be sitting out, or is the official?
Yeah, there was something that came across my timeline from a. Something came across my timeline from a trusted source team in my columns. Lineup construction question. Are you rostering both pitchers first, SP1, then you can afford or bad pick pitchers based on what's left. Tonight's a weird night. I'll probably so I got multiple lineups tonight. I think I'm running 5 lineups in GPP. So most of those will be pick a pitcher. Let's say it's Robbie Ray on 3 of those, and then I'll go and fill in some bats, and then I'll fill in what I really like in the bats, and I'll leave a couple spots empty in the bats, and then I'll go back to pitcher and see, well, around what neighborhood can I afford, and then I'll go back and fill in the last 2 batters. So yeah, it's not a pitcher heavy build for me. Like, it's going to be more batter friendly, which is different than most nights where it's let's see what 2 pitchers I want, and then I'll go to hitting.
Yeah, it's sort of slate dependent and pitcher dependent. And that's interesting. That's the way I was going to answer it as well. Yankees, by the way, the lineup officially is Verdugo, Soto, 3 homers last night, Judge, Wells, Torres, Grisham sneaks in there, Volpe, Cabrera, and DJ LeMahieu. There's your so no Stanton, like you said. Of course, no Jazz. And who is the third one that's not
Ben
playing
Rice?
baseball?
Ben Rice.
Which that seems peculiar against not starting him against the righty.
Man,
that seems odd.
I'm not gonna lie. That's a watered down lineup. I mean, you got to dodge Judge and Soto, and there's not a lot otherwise. So it's interesting. Davis Martin is coming off 6 innings and no earned runs at Oakland. That's a different story. But Yankees with a weaker lineup, man, you could do worse. I think you could do worse.
By the way, you said Davis Martin. Wanted to shout out. Yesterday we ran our contest. You had to have a player that had two first names. Our winner was Hustler 443. Shout out to Hustler 443. Looks like producer Steve or producer Devin already hooked you up with a week free of RG Premium. We're getting to that time where we're going to spin the wheel. So if you haven't already, get your name on that board. Jump into Discord, RotoGrinders.com/Discord. Live stream chat channel. It's going there at the bottom. But let's make Steve's life easier. Let's do it to get it in before the last second, so he's not scrambling. We're going to spin the wheel and give away 1 week free of RG Premium. If we have 100 likes when we spin the wheel, we're going to go ahead and just spin it twice. But the people don't want 2 weeks free of RG Premium because we're only currently at 50, Chop. I think in part, we're starting earlier. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people probably just jumped on like 5 minutes ago. But that's where we're at. That's the situation. We got to overcome it. Otherwise, we're just spinning on the wheel one time. Don Easy says it's sickening. It is sickening, but what are you going to do? Not going to beg, not going to grovel. Go FUYS. How do you pronounce that, Chop? that username, GOFUYS. How do we pronounce that? I'm not sure.
Well, I think I know what he's trying to say.
I think so too. So I almost said it. I'm like, I don't know where to go with that. But you know what? You could tell that he's asking about Brisky, Bill Brisky. The prospect of rostering him is a terrible idea. He's only going to throw like 35 pitches or so. You don't want to play him tonight. There's in no world. He's essentially an opener, is the point. I think they have not announced the long man. Detroit's been doing this. They're annoying. I think Sammons is the guy that's likely to pitch. Brian Sammons. And in a small sample, he's been shellacked, giving up almost 3 homers per 9. Only home runs, though, basically. He's got a 4 ERA, but just basically all home runs. I'm not saying you should roster him. I'm just kind of thinking that that's the one that's most likely to piggyback and come in later. Anything else we should say? David Peterson. Any interest in Peterson? No Rooker tonight. Makes his life easier. Chopper?
Oh, I was busy checking on Josh Bell, who flied out. So there's my one at bat down.
Sorry.
Yeah, here we go, man. Now I got to sweat 2 at bats.
Hey, question, by the way. I'm curious. Now, you mentioned you played pick 6. You said you had a couple winners. Do you not pick 6? You made it sound like you only picked 2.
No, well, you could pick anywhere between 2 to 6.
Okay, I didn't know that. I just assumed you picked 6. Well, I've never done. It's not legal in my state, so
6 maximum. But you can go with just an easy twofer. A little 2-man parlay if you want to. It's much smaller payouts, but I usually stick between 2 and 3. 3 is kind of the sweet spot, but the thing about DraftKings is, and it's a little bit different than some of the other sites. some of the other sites don't let you correlate very much. You know, they either say no, you can't do that, or they dock you, you know, some of the prize money, like take away some of the payout money. DraftKings will let you do some of this correlation. So like on this one, you know, I put in Josh Bell and Jock Peterson together there. Like, you know, if one guy is going to score runs, then maybe the guy behind him is the one driving him in. You get a little correlation. Like tonight, I got one tonight. I'll give it when we do the knockers, because these might be my knockers, but they're hidden, you know, close enough in the order to where they can correlate. I don't know, just fun little stuff. It's a nice little way to diversify your portfolio. In DFS, I'm not going to be able to grab. Let's see here tonight. I'm not going to be able to roster Judge, Anatoni, and Soto, Ellie De La Cruz. I can't roster them all. So if the guys I don't roster, I can go to the pick six and kind of cover myself a little bit, and even hit it both ways too. You can hit it both ways, but you know, just a little something.
Still waiting for a Dodgers lineup, but yeah, you mentioned Soto taking on a Frankie Montas. Walker Buehler's back tonight. He's been dreadful so far this season, for what it's worth. No Toronto, no Angels just yet in the late game. Atlanta, San Fran, unsurprisingly, no lineups there just yet. Of course, that's 4 or 5 hours away. We are expecting Michael Harris was activated from the 60-day IL. I presume he's going to play, but it is a tough matchup for him. First game back, left on left versus Robbie Ray. Anything else we should say here as far as pitchers, Chop? You want to give me the summary if somebody just tuned in late? We still have plenty of time. We're going to do our stacks soon enough, and crunch time comes in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, the summary on pitching is it's wide open. Even when you consider Robbie Ray is the highest projected guy by a pretty wide margin, it's still wide open, and he is still very much, unlike Michael King yesterday, where we had kind of a similar pitching layout, but unlike King, I had infinitely more confidence in Michael King last night than I do in Robbie Ray. So this pitching is wide open. I think you're going to win or lose this thing by don't get negative points at pitcher. So let's stick with like maybe 10 guys in that range and try to not get negative points. And it's going to be one with your hitting, which is what we're going to get to next.
Eric's asking why Mitch Keller is getting beat by the Padres. Yeah, he's getting shuttle kicked. 8-0 there. He's given up 8 runs there. End of 3, I believe. Peralta homered. If you're in the DFS streets there and playing a little bit of Peralta. Somebody's mentioning Tim Salmon in chat. He's actually the color analyst for the Angels. Well, I don't know if they have more than one, but I saw him pop up the other day. That is not his child. That's expected to throw baseballs for Detroit in the middle of the game, spelled differently, but I caught the reference. By the way, I don't want to give away the game just yet, Chop, but they're mentioning Ohtani in chat. Did he break your BBP model? Because I did pull up the BBP. Apparently, he's got 5 homers in his career versus Montas. Now, I know that's not all. There's a lot of bells and whistles, and it doesn't just say who's got a lot of home runs. Who might have besmirched, the BBP model. There's a lot more going on there, but I imagine he was least in the conversation. Maybe he made it to the semifinals today. Possibly.
Yeah. You put up those kind of power numbers and you're gonna be in the mix. So he's definitely in the mix. I can confirm though, he is not the BVP play of the day though.
Oh wow! All right, that is interesting. That's kind of surprising. Now the chat's just speculating.
Listen, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. I'm not the one making these decisions. It's just an algorithm, man.
It's out of your hands.
Yeah, he's giving me suggestions, and I'm not really making the decision. I'll be the human tiebreaker when it comes to that in some cases, but yeah, Shohei's in the mix. But
you're saying the algorithm is that you
I don't know, whatever if you want to call it an it, he or she, whatever.
I respect the pronouns of the algorithm. Whatever you want to. Yeah, fair enough.
I think what probably threw Shohei out of the mix, I think that's a little bit too many strikeouts. Like, I'm not in the algorithm's head, but I think that's probably a little bit too many on the strikeouts to be considered the BVP suggestion of the day when there must have been another guy who had checked more boxes.
All right. I think it is time we spin the wheel. Got a bunch of people nominated, Steve. Do we have enough likes to spin it twice or not just? I guess we didn't get there, did we? Is producer Steve cannot hear you or see you, but I do
He
see
might be taking a nap.
No, I'm here. Sorry, my wife is in the room.
Oh, no worries.
We are only at 81 likes.
Nah, that's embarrassing.
We gave them a lot of time.
Well, if I don't know how long it takes to spin the wheel, but if we get 19 more, I suppose we will spin it again and give away another individual week of RG Premium. Should be worth mentioning all the sports: football, baseball, basketball, hockey. I know it's not in season. MMA, golf, everything with the exception of NASCAR. That's a la carte. You got to hit Stevie up for that. But by the way, our poll question, Steve, I'm buying more time. 58% as of right now. By the way, we have 129 people that answered the poll. How does that happen? 129 people answered the poll. Less than 100. Hit the like button. You do the math.
They don't want 2 spins.
But they do want to say that the wheel is rigged because 58% believe it is rigged, and we're getting hearts in the chat too. I don't know what that means, but I guess that's good to see. Hearts are good, or 100. Steve, you know what this stuff means?
It's just a little live reaction. I don't think it actually adds to our like count or anything.
Okay,
Just
maybe that's what they're giving us instead.
Show people they're enjoying it.
Let's go ahead and give the wheel a spin. We'll give away a week free, and maybe, just maybe, we'll give away 2.
Ballers is the first winner.
Shout out to that was our show yesterday in the 5-hole. Just kind of worked out that way. That was Kirkwood's favorite show.
You guys won like 3 times. Ballers has won like 3 times.
Oh, well, now you're trying to. What are you saying, Chop, about the wheel? You're making an implication by suggesting that. Did we get to 100? Not going to beg, but did we get there?
Yeah, we are at 116 now, so I'll give it another spin.
All right, there you go.
Shuffle it up really quick. All right.
Big ballers out.
Dude, 76. All right. Thank you, guys. I'll tag you in the Discord. Congratulations.
Sweet. Congratulations. Every Wednesday we spin the wheel, give away free premium tomorrow. I don't know if there's a show tomorrow. There's like 6 games spread out. But if there is a show, there's no show, Chop?
There can be. There's like 1 game at night or something like that. 2 games at night.
There might be a crunch time. I haven't looked. I have not. Steve, if you don't mind, let me know in the chat so we let the people know. But sometimes there's a crunch time when we have like a 3 or 4 game slate.
Looks like we have a morning crunch time.
All right, just a crunch time. There's no me and Blender show.
No, looks like there's a Blender show and then crunch time after.
All right. Okay. Sweet. All right. Let's get back to it, Chop. You know what? We got to talk our board. We got to talk our category for today's tiers. Going to talk stacks today. Got 22 stacks to rank. It's just the 2 of us. Maybe we'll use the chat or producer Steve to break any ties if necessary. Kind of bounce back and forth. But before we do that, we have to actually rank our tiers. And yeah, Chop, you hit me up. We were talking about it, and I thought there was a lot to delve in the HBO world. And we landed on. Well, why don't you describe it? Because we both had we had 2 different descriptions of it, and I just yielded to your interpretation, which is fine. Yeah,
I don't know. We just you threw out the word HBO villains, and I thought, okay, you know what? Just thinking about it, there's a lot of villains on those HBO shows, and you kind of get to like them after a while. Like they're the heels in wrestling that people actually like. I think I kind of clarified it as a villain being somebody who is brought into a show and that is supposed to make life harder on the hero, on the the baby face in the show. And so, but then you start to liking those guys. So we just kind of did it kind of like most likable to least likable villains of the HBO shows. And there's, there might be a little bit of no controversy on some of these, but it is what it is. So, if you think about all the shows throughout the course of HBO, all the good ones, who's your most likable villain and least likable villain?
Yeah, because the conversation kind of bouncing back and forth. Like Tony Soprano is like, you're rooting for Tony Soprano. This is kind of one of the first shows that sort of brought out the anti-hero, where like they want the audience, they're kind of telling the audience to root for the bad guy, which led into Walter White. You're rooting for the bad guy. Spoiler alert, in Breaking Bad. But yeah, so there you go. The chat's playing along and throwing out some names. I was curious if they're gonna throw out some names. Yeah, Philly Otardo, Omar coming.
Omar was a very, very tough one. I definitely threw out Omar, but then I got to thinking, was he really truly a villain? Like they kind of, I don't know if they really brought him in to be McNulty's counterpart. So I don't know. I ended up not putting him on the list, I don't think, but stay tuned though.
Crazy Joe Davolo. That was from Seinfeld, right? Is that what Gator Nation? I think that was like a random Seinfeld character. Peter's saying Soprano is Tony Soprano's a villain. I guess, but you're rooting for him, and he's I would say he's an anti-hero. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a villain. I wouldn't say he's a good guy either. But there you go. It's kind of a fine line. And that's the kind of the conversation we were having back and forth. And I was just like, you know what? We're thinking of it differently, but that's perfectly fine. And I'm happy to see your list. I actually saw your list. If you want to go ahead and reveal the board and explain why you put the people where you put them.
Listen, there could have been multiple people in tier one there, great villains that you root for or that, turn it around. So I can only do one in each category. Deadwood, Al Swearingen, man, like he was a legit villain to Timothy Oliphant, who was the number one, the hero in Deadwood, and Swearingen was a real a-hole. And like by the end of that thing, he was so good at it too, but he was so good at it. And by the end of it, you're kind of just rooting for Big Al, man. So that was good. Marlo Stanfield couldn't do the Omar thing was a little bit too tight. Is he a villain? Is he not? What's going on? But Marlo was definitely a villain in The Wire, and Marlo was cool as hell. So got to put Marlo up there. You kind of mentioned Junior Soprano to me. I know you kind of root for him. Some people do, some people don't. So to me, that makes him kind of neutral here. So I put him in the third category, neutral. All right. Started to get Joffrey down there in level 5 was easy. That's easy money. Like he's one of the most, I could care less about that. I hated that guy. Kind of, maybe that makes it a good character. Maybe that makes it, exactly what they were going for. But I really was hoping he would die every single episode. He was so annoying. So I had him down. The fourth category was a little bit tougher. Needed to get in there and find somebody that was a villain, cast as a villain that you didn't.
But he wasn't a villainous guy. I wouldn't say he's a villainous guy.
Well, so that's the thing about it. Villain is what? Yeah. Somebody they put on the show to antagonize the hero and to play the exact counterpart for the hero. And Terrence Cutler, who, if you don't know, that was Kenny Powers. That was the principal in season 1 who was engaged to April, and he was the guy who was constantly on Kenny's butt, man, and and you didn't like him, so I put him in there, man, because I think he fit the
well, like he just wanted his school to be like principled and like
no, don't defend him. The guy he was like in Kenny's rear, man. He was rear-ending Kenny.
Kenny deserved it. Kenny was a chance he get,
but Kenny
was a terrible teacher. He was not a good guy.
That's what makes him a bit of a villain, So
well, it's just the perspective. Like, and you rooted for Kenny, even though maybe you should.
He was sabotaging Kenny too, by the way. He was sabotaging him.
Well, because he wants his life to be standard. Kenny's ruined his life. He's being a terrible teacher, and he's also moving in on his wife. Like, why wouldn't you sabotage him?
Kenny's our guy. Kenny's our hero. You're trying to undercut Kenny, so you belong on the villain list.
What else was? John is saying Dexter. Well, Dexter's on Showtime, so that automatically.
Somebody said mention Oz. That was one I really wanted to put Adebisi, who was a villain in Oz. I wanted to find he'd probably be in that tier 1 or tier 2 for me. Definitely, he was a villain, but boy, did he, man. When he came on the screen, you were like glued to the TV. He was very much an impactful character.
Good suggestion in chat from Peter saying Rossetti from Boardwalk Empire. We were talking about a little bit that you've never seen that show, and I told you should see it. And I've never seen Deadwood. You're telling me I should see Deadwood. So there you go. There's a couple shows that we should. I guess I should binge watch Deadwood, and you should binge watch Boardwalk Empire, which is a spectacular show. Bobby Cannavale. There you go. Legit just finished Dexter New Blood like 30 minutes ago. No spoilers for the people in chat, but yeah, it was a better ending than the actual ending of Dexter, which again, it's getting a prequel now, and it's getting a reboot where I think Michael C. Hall is just going to be Dexter again, because it's been so good in streaming. People love that show in streaming. I don't know if you know that, Chop, but like it's getting rebooted, and it's getting two shows. Dexter, a spinoff, or I guess just a reboot, and I guess when he was a child as well. I don't know if you're in that world, if you care for Dexter, but there you go.
I haven't seen Dexter, but it's like there's a long list of things I'd like to see. So yeah, I'll just put it on the list. But I'll put Boardwalk on that list too as soon as I see that. I've heard this new show on Apple with Jake Gyllenhaal. Heard that's really good too. I want to see
Presumed
that.
Innocent. It was good. Worth watching.
Okay, no spoilers.
I won't spoil it, but there was a movie in the 80s. I think the 80s, maybe the 90s. Harrison Ford. I don't know if I think it's loosely based. I don't want to say it's fully based on it because I don't remember ever seeing the movie. But yeah, and they might have changed the ending. I couldn't tell you, but yeah, I think that's sort of like what it's based upon. The movie with Harrison Ford, which you probably haven't seen, and most people probably haven't seen. And if they have, they probably saw it like 20 years ago. All right. By the way, producer Steve said he's read the books for Dexter. Yeah, that was the source material. Pretty, supposedly the books are pretty wild. I've never read them, but Dexter was good until it wasn't, but definitely worth watching. All right. Theon Greyjoy being thrown out in chat as well. There's a lot. You could just pull them all from Game of Thrones if you really want to. Like, you could knock them all out. There's a lot of evil people from Game of Thrones, but you had to change things up a little bit, I suppose. Anything else here, Chop, or shall we move on?
Let's do it. Stack time.
All right. Yeah. So there are 22 teams. Crunch time coming in about a half hour. So plenty of time to knock this all out. 6:35 is the start of your slate. The Nats are in Baltimore, 8.5 total. Dean Kramer taking on DJ Hers. 4.79, about a 4.18 total for Baltimore. Baltimore, the pretty heavy favorite, minus 172. Where do you have the O's and the Nats?
All right. So Baltimore, to me, I had to thin out the second tier because there was too many teams. So I dropped them down to my third tier. Hers a big strikeout guy. We've already talked about it. But this is a good offense. You just never know. So I got them in that third tier. Washington, I stuck them in the second tier. Marlowe Stansfield. Dean Kramer, I've been watching him for a while now. He's just not good right now. I don't know if he's going to get it back to his brief success he's had, but he's not having that success right now. He's not a particularly good pitcher. And Washington has some pieces that are very interesting in this lineup. They've got a good young lineup with some good young power hitters, and I'm interested in that.
So you got Washington and Marlowe Stanfield and Baltimore and Junior Soprano. That's interesting. I would have flipped those, but not so much that I'm going to argue with you. I almost went with Baltimore on the expert survey as my sneaky team, just because like nobody's going to play them. Left on left gunner versus Hers. When Hers is not striking people out, and like I said, he's got the second biggest K rate on the slate. A lot of fly balls, and gets barreled. And he's a little bit wild, 7.8% as far as walks. So it's kind of a recipe, for stacks. No Rushman, by the way, he's in there. I'm sorry. For some reason he was not protected earlier.
I'd say this, Dean, this would be a great show. And I mean, a great show to have Kirk Deese's humidity model, because Washington and Baltimore. This is one of those places where the weather matters. And so I don't have the humidity model, the dew point model, but I do have.
It's 57 is the dew point. I got weather edge. Not a big sample chop, but like a slight hit in homers and a slight bump and runs. It looks pretty neutral.
Kevin Roth's, weather edge isn't giving us much to go on here, so that's why. No. But if it was one of those situations where Kirk told me, "Hey man, the dew point is great," yeah, I'm bumping both of these teams up a notch. But just as it stands, without the dew point model, here's where we're
at. Next game, Chop, is the Cubs. The Cubs taking on Cleveland. Jamison Tyon, Alex Cobb. I mean, I would love to pick on Alex Cobb. Although, like, he gets a lot of ground balls. He can still do that, I suppose. But 35, 36 years old, injury history. It's just his Cub team is not very good, but there's no chance I'm playing Cobb. I didn't know what to do with this game, is the long story short. I think Cleveland's kind of interesting too. But I'm curious what your thoughts are as far as the Cubs and the Guardians.
I've got both of these teams, both the Cubs and the Guardians, in tier 2. Now, you can definitely talk me into dropping the Cubs down a notch. That's for sure. But Cleveland is firmly planted in that category at home against Tyon, who is, even in the midst of one of his better years, is still just very average and, big fly ball pitcher and not many strikeouts these days. I like Cleveland in that second tier. The Cubs, you can convince me to drop down to third. Obviously, their strength is against left-handed pitching. So this is not really one of those cases here. So they're kind of borderline for me. I can let you decide the Cubs, but I like the Guardians in that second spot for sure.
I'll put the Cubs in Junior Soprano. I think they're interesting. They do have some power against righties. Happ, Bush, Suzuki, Bellinger, Paredes, all in the green when it comes to ISO and WOBA, if you fire up the plate IQ. Do want fly ball guys, ideally. Let me see if I can get the advanced stuff. Yeah, so Suzuki's a fly. All those guys are fly ball guys too, because you want the fly ball guys against the ground ball pitcher, and Cobb is definitely a ground ball pitcher. So, like 1 through 5, it's as simple as that. I don't think you have to get any goofier. Of course, you were making a bunch of lineups, sure, get them all. But I like the Chicago 1 through 5. I don't know if I'm going to get there because I only make so many lineups, but I think that's pretty interesting. But let's go ahead and stick them into with Junior Soprano. You didn't seem like you were a Junior Soprano fan. You were kind of indifferent, right? Is that why you threw him in the middle?
Yeah, sort of middle is more indifferent, and just he didn't do anything for me, but he didn't upset me either. So he's just kind of in the middle.
I mean, he did try to have Tony.
They all try to have each other killed at some point, man.
But he's also like really, really likable. He had some of the best one-liners in the show. And one of my favorite scenes ever in the entire series was him and Bacala were watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. And they're like, why are we on TV? Do you remember that scene when they thought that they were on the TV? He thought Larry David was him. Yeah, there you go. All right. It's a throwaway scene, but I thought it's worth checking out. Anyways.
All I know about is hardly a day can go by without Kirk Deese in the private chat mentioning some Johnny Cakes. He loved him some Johnny Cakes from Sopranos.
Johnny Cake last season, I believe it was. Gibson versus Pagan. Pagan, we're assuming, is the opener here. Spires, we're assuming, is coming after Pagan here. Good ballpark, of course, 9.5 total. St. Louis, they brought back Walker, but he's not playing today. Okay. Jordan Walker is back with the big club. And he was hitting well in the minors, at least of late. And you might as well see what you have in him. He's still really young, like only 22, 23. So not a bust just yet, but been disappointing for sure. Gibson taking on Pagan and Spires, Cardinals, Reds. What do you got?
Really tough game to handicap for the rankings here. But Cincinnati against Gibson, although I like some of those pieces individually, as a full-on stack against Gibson on this slate, I'm just going to put them in tier 3. St. Louis is the one that's interesting with the pitching matchup here, the openers and everything that's going on. I kind of don't know how to handicap that one, that's for sure. So I'm going to put them in tier 2. They've got some power and they can do some things, and I don't know exactly what we're going to get from Cincinnati's pitching, so I'll put St. Louis up in tier 2.
I personally would have put them in the middle, but I'm kind of hedging. I'm not really in on St. Louis. They're fine. The ballpark certainly is interesting, and is it a good thing? I think it's probably a bad thing, a net bad thing, when they have an opener out there and they bring in, we're assuming, Spires, and then they kind of match up as far as lefty-righty stuff if the game is close. But all right, I'll keep them there. I'm not going to fight it too hard, but I don't really love St. Louis. I think they're very mid. That's kind of where I would have put them. But anyways, Marlins, Phillies, Cabrera, Tyler Phillips. Philly, pretty big favorite here in Philly. Minus 170. A team total almost at 5. We talked about Edward Cabrera lots of strikeouts, but also lots of walks. Will give up homers as well. No Trey Turner in this Philadelphia lineup, so Castellanos jumped up to the 2-hole. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything. Jake Berger is one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball. It's unfortunate he's stuck on the Marlins, and the rest of the team is terrible, but he's been doing it by himself. Just a pile of homers of late. Where do we have the Marlins and the Phillies?
Yeah, every once in a while, there's a batter that comes around, and the bat absolutely falls in love with him no matter what, and that's Jake Berger this year. I mean, in years past, I remember it was Roughneck Odor. Always got the big projection from the bat, but yeah,
he was always so cheap. Yeah.
Like Miami to me is a tier 5 team here, even though Tyler Phillips has shown some flashes of being pretty good. This is just not a good lineup. So they're a tier 5 for me. Somebody's got to fall down there. Philly, with everything that's going on with that team, not a lot of offense here lately, just on a losing streak. And Cabrera kind of hitting a stride and being a pretty decent pitcher on this slate. I've only got Philly in that junior soprano tier. There's nothing about them that excites me or totally throws me off of them.
I would elevate them to Marlo Stanfield because I think there's a chance that Cabrera just walks the world and gives up homers, and we're looking at like a 6-0 score in the third. And the Marlins bullpen got worse after the trade deadline, and you're going to get the worst of the Marlins bullpen if that situation plays out. The absence of Turner is kind of a bummer, but it does make them cheaper. By the way, you want a bold prediction? Schwarber is going to lead up the game with a walk. He's going to walk because he walks a ton, and Cabrera is going to be afraid of him. I was looking at the plate IQ stuff. I don't know if you can bet on this. I guess you can bet on total walks, right? But Cabrera on the season, 17.9% walks the lefties, Chop. 17.9% walks the lefties. And Schwarber's got a 15.2% walk rate on the year. He's going to walk them. And now I don't really want to walk, but and again, there's no guarantee. I just it's something I would bet on. You can live bet that, right? Live bet the walk for Kyle Schwarber. All right. And then eventually 2 guys are on, and then Harper bangs one out. We shall move on. But yeah, I'm going to move. Let Steve, you break the tie. You have the power of you can adjust it if you want to. But personally, I will put Philly in Marlo Stanfield. Let's move on. Seattle, Detroit, Woo, Brisky. Bo Brisky. We do have Carrot Carpenter is back for Detroit, but the team total is pretty low, below 4. Woo is pretty heavy favorite here, minus 144. Producer Steve has made an executive decision and kept Philly where they're at, and possibly because he's a Met fan. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's any bad blood there, but that's how it's going to go, which is perfectly fine. Woo versus Brisky, and I think it's going to be Brian Salmons following him, but we don't know that for certain. Where do we have Detroit and Seattle?
Detroit's an easy one for me. This is one of the better pitchers on this slate. Even though he's not like on a normal slate, he'd just fall into like down in the middle there. But he's one of the better pitchers on this slate, so I don't want to attack that. I'm going Detroit in tier 5. They're not a great offense anyway.
Does it change things that Javi Baez was scratched? Does that move him up or move him down? You can't move him to 6.
I'm pretty neutral on the Baez thing. Like, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't. They're just not that good anyway. So I got tier 5, man. Somebody's, like I said, somebody's got to hit these tiers, and Detroit's going to be that guy. Seattle, just not a good offense, man. Just not a good offense. I can't do a lot with them. We got we don't have enough knowledge on what's going to happen next after Brisky leaves the game. There's a lot of unknown. It's a terrible offense. I'm just going to put them in that junior soprano because I don't know how it's going to go. So they're the junior soprano team for me.
I think they're an interesting team that nobody's going to play. They're getting a ballpark bump getting out of Seattle. They're locked in for 9 as well. Like for large field stuff, I think they're a really interesting team. And you mentioned their offense is not great, but it's gotten better. J-Rod's back. Arozarena, of course, is a plus. You got the big dumper there, Kyle Raleigh. Again, Brisky expected to throw, I think, 35 pitches is our current projection over-under as a median number. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer for Woo with Baez getting scratched. I don't know who's going to jump in there. Somebody not that good, but also probably somebody that strikes out less. I would have just imagined that's kind of how that goes. Vierling, Carpenter, Keith, Urshela, Madras, Meadows, Malloy. I think Malloy jumped in there. McKinstry and Rogers. I think that was the one that was added to Detroit. All right. Moving on here, Chop. We have Houston, your Astros, taking on the Rays. Zach Littell, Blanco. Blanco is the slight favorite, -125 on the road. We talked about Tampa since the trade deadline. A lot of Ks on layaway for Blanco. Not that Blanco is an amazing strikeout pitcher, but he's perfectly fine. Where do we have? By the way, somebody asked about Wu if he's stretched out now. I believe he threw 90 pitches this last time.
88 and 92.
92. So
he's
pretty
fine.
good.
Yeah, we're not worried about pitch count if you're taking Brian Wu. Like if he's on his game, 90 pitches will get him. We already said this, like through 6 or maybe even through 7. You're not worried about the pitch count. You're just worried about him having his good stuff on the road. Houston, Tampa Bay. All right. Dean, I'm going to do another fifth tier here. Joffrey Baratheon, King Joffrey. That's going to be Tampa Bay. Don't like him. Blanco, like you've already alluded to, even on his bad games where he's given up a lot of walks, they don't translate to a lot of runs. And so I don't think you're going to get much there. And if it's a close game with Houston, you're going to get some good relief pitching. So it really deadens your stack appeal, which you stack for anomalies, man, for like a 9 or a 10 run game, out of that offense, something happens. And I just don't see that happening with Tampa. And I think there's a ceiling for that offense against this Houston pitching staff and Blanco. So that's a fifth level team. Houston, Lytle is not terrible. There's some things about him that I think are okay. The team total kind of reflects that for Houston. It's not off the charts. I'm neutral on him. Junior Soprano, man. Junior Soprano for me, for Houston. But you can talk me into something different there on that one.
I mean, I would consider dropping him to 4. I have Houston behind most teams, and we have nobody in 4. And I just looking at our teams in Junior Soprano, I think I have everybody ahead of Houston. So I would personally put him in Terrence Cutler.
I could live with that. They need before they become that big time stack again, they need Kyle Tucker back, man. They just don't have enough power once you get past Yiner batting 4th. You need some more home run power in your stack, and without Tucker, they don't have that.
I'll tell you, man. I said this before to you. I think they lied about his injury. They definitely downplayed that. They called it like a bruise when it first happened.
They did a article in The Athletic about that, Dean.
What did they say?
You should
read
read
the
it.
synopsis.
Synopsis.
Did you read the headline, or you read the entire?
No,
article?
I read the article. The synopsis of it is that when you get a bone bruise that deep, it's kind of a fracture in and of itself, but it's a bone bruise. A really bad bone bruise can be a fracture in there inside your bone. So, yeah, it's not.
Is he coming back anytime soon, or we don't know?
I think he'll be back before. I think it'll be sometime in September, man. He's really still like he does drills out there. You can see him doing drills, and he's walking like he's a 50-year-old man. He's got that limp. It's really bad. So he'll be back. It'll just take more time. It'll probably be in September.
I'm just noticing he's got a 1-year, $12 million contract. So like maybe if he was like signed long term, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it, but yeah, he's possibly thinking about the future as well. But okay, we shall move on. Oakland, no Rooker, so they take a hit. Of course, I guess it's a ballpark upgrade to New York, but of course, it's not the best hitting environment. But few places are worse than the Coliseum out there in Oakland. Mets, David Peterson taking on Joey Estes. Joey Estes, a lot of fly balls this year. Tons. He gets hit really, really hard versus lefties as well. I'll just tell you, the Mets are one of my favorite pivot stack tonight. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I think I'm going to play the Mets in single entry this evening. Just hopefully Joey Estes, he's been very, very lucky as far as home run to fly ball. And again, part of that's, playing in Oakland. And this isn't the most, it's also a forgiving ballpark for pitchers. But I just think the Mets beat them up. That's kind of my hope, at least. And you're going to get them, in single entry, pretty low owned, I think, outside of maybe Lindor. Tell me where you're at as far as the Athletics and the Mets.
I've personally got both of these offenses in the Marlowe Stanfield. Oakland, to me, like it's tougher. I mean, I probably like New York a little better, but I was hesitant to put them up top, which we could. I don't have very many teams up top yet to come, but I definitely like New York better. Estes, like you said, everything about him. The lefties should do well against him. A lot of fly balls there. The hesitancy with putting them up top was the Mets have not been good lately. That offense just doesn't look good in general. They're slumping, but I could be convinced into the number one. Oakland, I think, is really sneaky. Like a super low team total. Peterson may even be a pitcher that gets rostered a little bit. And Oakland's got that sneaky, man, they've been very, very good now for about 6 or 7 weeks, I would say. Just they've been a really solid team with a good offense, and they've got some pieces in that lineup that are young and hitting well, and teams don't know how to approach them. And so, yeah, I think Oakland is a GPP, a really good GPP stack tonight.
My counterpoint on Oakland is, no Rooker is a big bummer. He's going to come in and probably take like Des Cameron's spot or something like that. Again, if the game's a washout.
We sure it's not just a day off?
Well, I mean, like it all depends upon the situation. If the score is 5-5 in the ninth, and Des
by then you've already.
Well, whatever. If it's
I think they may give him the day off. I think that's where. And plus, Rooker is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he like $5,700 yesterday? So
he's expensive.
He wouldn't have been in my stack anyway. I don't think.
Rooker is out for paternity, so I don't even know if he's in New York.
There you go.
So he might not be. He's probably not going to be able to even pinch it.
No, that's a good call. I missed that. So congratulations to him and his family in advance. That just weakens the stack, but it makes it a lot cheaper.
Well, look at that stack though. Like Butler.
I like Butler.
Butler's interesting. Blade, Langoliers, who was a GPP winner last night. Daz Cameron, that top four or five guys you can dig with, and then you get down to like 7. I think Nevin's interesting. Nevin, I think, should have his. What is it? We're in New York. Nevin's going to have his family there. Nevin's going to have his family in the stands.
That's where he's from.
His dad is the Phil Nevin, the former baseball player.
Oh, is his dad Phil Nevin? I didn't know. I know it was. Okay. I feel like I knew that and I forgot that.
They'll be in there tonight watching the game, so maybe he's got a little extra. But I don't, I like it, man. Like I wasn't going to play.
Grow up in San Diego though. He didn't grow up in San Diego.
I have no idea. I just know his family's going to be in the stands. I heard that on TV
Friends
today.
So
I was personally not gonna. Yeah, Rooker's he's the best player out of all of them, but he was also a guy I was never going to take anyway in a stack at that price tag. So I don't mind the cheapness of this. I think, like I said, it's not a cash game stack; it's a GPP stack. I think they're interesting, but definitely the Mets are clearly better than them.
We got 4 games, Chop. 4 games to knock out before crunch time comes on. They're coming on in about 10 minutes or so. We also got to get knock out the knockers and the BBP suggestion of the day. Next game up is the Dodgers and the Brewers. 9 total. Walker Buehler, who's been a disaster, taking on Frankie Montas. What do you got for me?
Yeah, Buehler not good. Hasn't been good, but I just can't do a whole lot of full stacking on Milwaukee, so I'm putting them in the Terrence Cutler category. They just don't interest me that much. What does interest me is the LA Dodgers. That's going to be my first Al Swearingen team. Getting Mookie Betts back, just like a shot of adrenaline to this lineup. They needed that so bad with the lack of depth in this lineup. He just adds so much to them. That was a GPP winning stack last night with those home runs. Like they just one right after another with these guys. And I think you're going to have games like that against any level pitcher. Man, Montas has been solid this year, not great, but against anybody from here on out, you're going to have the Dodgers are going to be a threat to hit like 3 or 4 home runs in any night. So there's tier 1 for me.
Montas, really, really dramatic splits. 224 ISO versus lefties, 382 Wobo versus lefties. Ohtani, your boy Ohtani, Freeman as well. Both look spectacular. As a cheapie, I don't mind Gavin Lux either. Montas has been very good against righties. Doesn't mean you can't play Betts, of course, because Betts is spectacular. I'm not going to argue with you because for whatever reason, the lack of time, we don't have time to do it. I'd probably bump up Milwaukee because I think Bueller might be toast. I'm not sure, but like that's the way he's been pitching so
you
far.
think he's cooked? They also had a boy. I was really impressed with what I saw out of River Ryan in his brief time, and then they blew that arm out already, so they got issues over there, man.
It's just the arm's not supposed to go like that. So you're not repeating it thousands and thousands of times unless you're like Nolan Ryan. There's anomalies out there, I suppose. Not a natural motion. Yankees, White Sox, Will Warren, Davis, Martin, 4 first names combined. Will Warren taking on Davis, Martin. 9 team total here. Of course, the Yankees, despite the fact there's no Giancarlo Stanton, there's no Jazz, there's no Rice. They still are a massive favorite, minus 250, a 5.5 team total, biggest team total on the board. Locked in versus 9 versus Martin, and the terrible White Sox bullpen. Where do you have the Yankees and the Sox?
The Sox, I have in the Terrence Cutler category. I just can't do too much with that. They're just, even though the matchup is probably something you would want to take advantage of, I just can't do it. So with this team, so I've got them down there. Now, the Yankees, I have to pivot. I had them in the Al Swearingen pre-show. Don't like the lineup. Don't like the adjustments to the lineup. I think there's issues there. So I'm going to bump them down to Marlo Stanfield, although you can talk me into it. But, just looking at in general, the lineup, not a huge Verdugo guy right now. He's struggling. You got Soto and Judge you got to navigate around. That's it. You've got a catcher in cleanup. He's okay, but, he's still a catcher hitting cleanup. That's not really supposed to go like that. And then the bottom of that order against right-handers is absolutely nothing that I fear or really want to jam into my DFS lineups. So I'm bumping them down to Marlo Stanfield. If they had a full competent lineup tonight, they would have been Al Swearingen for me.
I would bump them, but I still think they belong in the top. But we will leave that to producer Steve, and he's throwing them in Marlo Stanfield, so that works for me. We have 2 more games to go. Toronto, Angels, Barrios. Jose Barrios revenge game, right? Taking on Tyler Anderson, he's got that horseshoe shoved right up the caboose. Super, super lucky this season. Maybe tonight's the night for the regression monster, but you never know. And also this Toronto team, not great. No lineups just yet here. Where do you have the Angels and the Blue Jays?
The Angels against Barrios is a tier 4 for me, a Terrence Cutler. I don't, we're at a point in the year you can kind of see certain teams versus certain handedness of pitchers either does it for you or doesn't right off the bat. And Barrios doesn't get strikeouts now, but he's not a terrible pitcher. And the Angels are just not good against right-handers. So they're a tier 4, Terrence Cutler for me. Toronto is more intriguing because even though we talked up to, Tyler Anderson, he's still got those numbers, man. Any day now, he's going to get smashed around. Is it going to be Toronto? Maybe. So they fall in the Junior Sobrano because there's just the underlying numbers for Anderson are bad.
Yeah, I throw my hands up as well. I'm good with that. Last game, Atlanta, San Fran, chalky, Robbie Ray, minus 132 favorite versus Atlanta. We're expecting Michael Harris to come back for Atlanta. No official lineups just yet. Grant Holmes on the other side. Also, one of the more popular pitchers on this slate, 7.5 total. Great pitchers park. Where do you have the Braves and the Giants?
Start off with the Giants, which are a tier 4 Terrence Cutler. I kind of like Grant Holmes, what he brings to the table, and it's reflected in the very brief numbers he's got in the big leagues, but decent K rate, doesn't walk guys. Yeah, and San Francisco's not an offense I'm like running out to stack, so I don't love them. Atlanta's the interesting one because
leverage.
This is the ultimate leverage spot on this slate. Like it's not just Robbie Ray who can definitely get blown up at any time and has always had these massive fly ball tendency, which would be great. But you're also getting an offense against left-handers that has several pieces in that stack that are like on normal nights. They're already good. Like you already want to roll out Ozuna and Riley and some of these guys against lefties. And now you get those guys against the chalkiest pitcher on the slate. That's ultimate leverage. I'm gonna put them in
unowned.
Yes, I'm gonna put them in Junior Soprano, but I could definitely be. If Squirrel was here, he'd probably have him in Al Swearingen, and I wouldn't really argue with him too much.
I would bet that Squirrel will be over the field, and it's probably not hard to get over the field on Atlanta. A revenge game there for Jorge Soler. You look at the plate IQ, Soler. I know it's a down year for the Braves as is, but still plenty of power, like you said. Soler, Riley, Ozuna, even left on left, Matt Olson. The game's 9 innings long, and Ray's not going to stick around the entire time. Not my first lineup, not my fifth lineup, but at some point, your 10th lineup, I think you're supposed to make an Atlanta stack, right? At some point, if you're making a bunch of lineups tonight. All right. We have the Dodgers all by themselves, Chop, hanging out with Al Swearingen. Is it Swearingen? I never watched Deadwood. Swearingen?
Swearingen.
Marlo Stanfield has Washington, Cleveland, St. Louis, the Mets, the A's, the Yankees. Junior Soprano, very busy. Got Baltimore, the Cubs, the Reds, Philly, Seattle, Milwaukee, Toronto, Atlanta. Lots of teams in the middle. Terrence Cutler from Eastbound and Down, the villain from Eastbound and Down. He didn't want Kenny Powers to take his wife. So what a villain he was. And he didn't want Kenny Powers to be a terrible teacher. He's got the Astros, the White Sox, the Angels, and the Giants. And all the way at the bottom, King Joffrey. We have Tampa, Detroit, and the Marlins. That is our board. Chop, give me the knockers, and let's fire off the old BVP suggestion of the day as the people are hitting the like button.
All right. BVP suggestion of the day. Lots of there's some different choices here today to go through, but the name that we fell on here, me and the AI, we fell on Jake Fraley. We're rocking some Jake Fraley. Several good pieces to this BVP suggestion model here. Namely the launch angle. Good launch angle against Kyle Gibson. So we'll roll
Look at
with
you
that.
busting out the launch angle. By the way, I didn't realize I was factored into the old BVP suggestion today.
Oh, it factors everything in. Dean, I don't even look at this stuff. This model just spits it out to me and said, boom, look, here you go. All right. Now,
second thing, by the way, Chop, not to interrupt you, but you were we've talked about this throughout the show a couple times. You have your Josh Bell bet.
No.
You gotta run. Is that what you need? What did you need?
Did I get a run? Hold on.
You got to walk in a run. He just scored in a grand
Josh
slam
Bell,
from Suarez.
He scored. I think that's it, D. Let me double
Winner?
check to make sure I got my cash in there. Let me double check. Boom.
So now
three green lights. 3 green lights are lit up, Dean. I got it. 3 green lights are lit up.
The second part of the sweat now is how much you get paid, because that's a mystery based upon how many Grammys are out there.
The thing about the DK is, which is very interesting, it's not set in stone, but there is a minimum. So you will get a certain amount. And if like everybody in the whole pool won, then they would have to cover it. So you got that, which doesn't happen, but they'd cover it. So you at least get a minimum. As of right now, and this is could definitely change, because a lot of people take unders. There's a lot of sharps who play this, and they take unders. So once some offenses start rolling in, and you can those can pay. Right now we're at a 5.3 times payout for three players. That's not bad. And because two of them were correlated, so it makes it a little bit easier. I think Anyway, Dean, thanks for pointing that out. I forgot to check on that. Got my Josh Bell run. Boom, boom.
We need we need the knockers. Crunch time's
I got two teams. I don't know which one to go with, Dean. So I'm gonna go with the let's go Washington. I got two sets of knockers here. I got some, knockers on both sides of me here. I gotta pick one. This is gonna be interesting, Dean. We've never had these guys on the show before as knockers. James Wood and Luis Garcia, not the Houston pitcher, Luis Garcia. James Wood, Luis Garcia, 3-5. I think Creamer's been getting creamed. I think it's going to continue in Washington. I like the young bats for Washington. I think they're going to put up some runs. Let's go that route. Because the other chalky knockers were Mets, and we don't want to do that.
Oh, I hope it is the Mets. Just noticing, I missed this earlier. Austin Slater's leading off for Baltimore. That feels like a pinch hit on layaway, but I guess it's worth noting. I wonder how popular he's going to be, because he's been terrible, and he'll get pinch hit for probably when a righty comes in. But just wanted to point that out. We did not mention it earlier. I'm just saying it now. All right, it's crunch time. It's we got Dave Potts, we have Kevin Roth, we have STL Cards. Let's go ahead. Let's do it. Let's bring in crunch time. All righty, Kevin Roth, STL Cards, Dave Potts. How are things? I think weather-wise we're pretty clean, right? Unless something's changed in the last hour.
Yeah, there's a low chance of a delay in any of those East Coast games, but just play everything in all of them.
We have a 6:35 first pitch, so you guys are in a bit of a squeeze. Not really, 37 minutes. So if you want us to step aside and get out of here, unless you have anything else, myself and Chop, we can, we've already overspent our welcome for sure, but we good, Kevin?
I watched Rounders.
You watched Rounders for the first time?
I did. Yeah, I watched it last night, as promised. Thank you, sweetheart. Dad, I love you. Okay. I watched Rounders for the first time last night. It was pretty good. It was weird that there was no final showdown with Edward Norton. He kind of just disappeared in the end of the movie. That bugged me a little bit. He was there and then he wasn't. He wasn't a part of the final scene, which was weird, but it was good.
Well, worst friend ever, right? And is there a worse friend in the history of movies than Worm?
He was the main bad guy, which was why it was weird to me that he wasn't somehow involved in the culminating scene. They just, spoiler alert.
It's 25 years.
Yeah. Hey, some people are a little late. Anyways,
we just brought it up yesterday. To some people, it was new when we brought it up yesterday.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
But I did enjoy it. So thank you for the obvious recommendation. Obviously, a movie I should have watched. So checked and I liked it.
Awesome. Glad you enjoyed it. Myself and Chop, let's get out of here. Do appreciate y'all watching. Don't go anywhere. 35 minutes of MLB DFS conversation taking you straight up to lock. You have STL Cards, Dave Potts, and Kevin Roth. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff. Welcome to it, ladies and gents. You know the drill. It's crunch time. Two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got Dave Potts. Cheeseisgood in the house. What up, Cheese?
Not too much. Pretty loaded slate. Good times.
Okay. All right. You feel good about what you've got going on here? You feel like you're going to put some
I wouldn't say I feel good. I would just say there's a lot of good stuff, which makes me feel like all my lineups are great, as are all of my opponents' lineups. So it's one of those. I don't know if it's good or bad.
I think that's more fun than when everybody's lineup sucks. At least you feel good about it when the lock comes.
I'd rather lose with a good-looking lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. We got STL Cards. And now, speaking of good-looking, we got STL Cards now as well. What up, Cards?
Yeah, not much. Back from a weekend trip up to Lake Michigan. I went to the beach with the boys before they went back to school. So it was nice to get away for a weekend. Had a lunch at Five Guys since Cheese writes about that all the time. And I don't get Five Guys here in rural Illinois. We did stop there on our little weekend trip. So I feel vindicated for being able to have Five Guys for myself for once. And back at it. Kids go back to school tomorrow. Mom's excited about that. So it's a good week.
Matt, congratulations. Life just is about to turn around for you. Kids back in school. That's good stuff, man. Let's talk about the slate. Like Dean mentioned, we do have an earlier lock, and there are no major weather concerns. I think any of those East Coast games could see a delay. New York would be the most likely of them to have that happen. But even the most likely game to see a delay is maybe a 10% chance of it happening. Maybe. So I see no reason why I would fade any pitchers, hitters, cash, GPPs, whatever. It will probably work out. But I guess, Cheese, I should start with, do we like pitchers in New York? Because that's the one game where maybe you could see a delay.
No, I mean,
we really don't like pitchers anywhere tonight. If we're being
that's the thing. But no, so some people though would answer yes.
Yeah,
like some people are playing David Peterson.
Yeah, if there's like an easy pivot and you'd rather go somewhere else, fine. But really, it's probably going to work out, and just play it. Just play the guy that you like, and it'll work out. And that's it. So let's dive into the pitchers that apparently we don't like. Geez, what do we have?
Yeah, like in some ways, there's like a whole crazy bunch of like almost okay pitchers, but essentially Robbie Ray is the only guy with any legitimate upside. And because of that, we're going to have major Robbie Ray chalk.
We don't
and
like
you
that.
know the rule on that, right? Like,
yeah.
And I think the ownership we're showing on DK is low. Like, I think in like smaller field stuff, I think we're talking 50, 60% and probably 40 to 50 in larger field stuff. I wrote about this in the musings. I kind of hemmed and hawed all over the place and said, like, I think the correct answer is to be under 50% on Ray, and that it was going to be hard to do it because it's hard not to click that name on DK specifically where he's cheap. Yeah. I actually did manage to do it. I'm at about 35%. I said, I'll let you know in crunch time where I land. I got under without even feeling that bad about it. he could absolutely break the slate. Like, and he's kind of the only pitcher that realistically could break the slate.
Is he in a good matchup? Like, talk to me about what he's doing.
Well, that's the thing. It's boom bust match. He's facing Atlanta at home. They strike out a lot. He strikes out a lot of guys. They also have a lot of righty power. He gives up a lot of righty power. It's just very boom bust on both sides. And to me, like, he's not there. Like, I'm just kind of nervous about the way he's looked. Like, I don't know. I'm under. Like I say, I think it's best to be under. This is not one of those spots I feel like I want to get 75% of the chalk pitcher. I just don't quite trust him that much. So I am under, and I'm under that number on FanDuel as well. Now the problem is you still need pitchers. Even if you are playing Ray, you still need another one on DK. Let me start on FanDuel though, because to me, the pricing is weird. Like, we have a $6,100 Grant Holmes and a $6,000 Will Warren. Neither of these guys have enough sample size to know much, but I think they're both good. And in fact, I think they are probably, just skill set wise, I think they're the second and third best pitchers on this slate. And honestly, I have them ranked second and third, not even accounting for the salary.
Wow.
So my first 50 lineups on FanDuel are nothing but Ray, Warren, and Holmes. That's it. I made myself do some more with some Ronel Blanco and some Brian Wu, and even some of these other guys we'll talk about for DK. But really on FanDuel, like, I think Warren and Hughes are Holmes. I keep wanting to call him Hughes. Warren and Holmes are as good as these 10K pitchers. And then you can just play Soto and Ohtani and Judge and Jose Ramirez and Ellie De La Cruz. And that's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. DK, those guys are not like super cheap. They're cheaper. And I do like them better than David Peterson and Alex Cobb, who I think those guys all kind of pick up similar ownership. I still just don't trust or like Ronel Blanco. He's good at times, and he's got a pretty good matchup, so I don't argue with you playing him, but that, like, he's the point at which I would rather just play Robbie Ray. So I'm playing Brian Wu ahead of Blanco if I'm spending up without playing Ray. And then I have just little sprinkles of Alex Cobb, Barrios, Kyle Gibson. But even on DK, honestly, I'm mostly just playing Holmes and Warren with my 35% Ray.
Okay. And I assume you're pairing them a lot together on DK as well, like a Holmes Warren pairing is totally fine.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep. And so, like, it's just, I just don't. The other thing I think I'll throw in on DK, like Edward Cabrera at $6,000 has a ton of downside, but pretty much everyone on this slate has a ton of downside. And Cabrera, even against the Phillies, does have some upside. So I think you should throw him in the MME pool as well.
Okay. Good stuff. Cards, I want to bring you in here. I feel like I've got the general overview, so I'd like to know where you stand and where your ownership is shaking out on some of these pitchers.
Yeah, I think Cheese put it together pretty well here. It's just you never want to be super overweight on Robbie Ray when he's popular, especially given that, it's not like he's facing the White Sox. There is some risk of him, having a blow up start. It's going to happen at some point. It usually does tend to happen when he's chalky. So getting under our projected ownership, if you're doing a lot of lineups, I think makes sense. If you're doing a single lineup build tonight, that's probably one of the toughest decisions you have to make. I usually don't play the single entry route, so I would probably lean towards not playing him. I'm glad Cheese mentioned Cabrera so that I didn't have to be on the island. But if anybody has followed my stuff for any length of time, you know that I'm kind of a sucker for Cabrera with his potential ceiling with the strikeouts. The walks can be a problem sometimes. The home runs can be a problem sometimes. Both of those things together can absolutely be a problem against a team like the Phillies. But the good news with Cabrera is he has been pitching better over his last handful of starts. If you look at his last 3 starts, 18, 28, and 20 DK points. I mean, 18, 28, and 20 will get the job done when you're 6K on DraftKings, when you need 2 pitchers, when it's a thin pitching slate. And you want to probably save as much money as you can for bats because you don't like the pitching. So, I mean, if you take out Pagan, who is basically just an opener for the Reds tonight, Cabrera is the cheapest pitcher on the board over there. So on a slate where we don't like any of the pitching options, why not take a shot on the cheapest pitcher on the board that maybe does have some ceiling if everything breaks his way? Like he could be a top 4 or 5 raw point scorer as the cheapest option on the board. He could also get you -10, and then you're yelling at me in an hour, which that's just the range of outcomes with Cabrera. So if we had a different slate context with significantly stronger pitching options, I wouldn't be making the same argument as I am now with the fact that he's 6K. So I absolutely don't mind using one of Holmes or Warren and pairing them with Cabrera. Because if you do that, I mean, if I plug in a DK lineup with Holmes and Cabrera, I've got almost $4,600 to spend per hitter. So, I mean, you're going to be able to get a lot of high-end bats in your lineup with those two guys. So that's my favorite GPP build tonight. One of Warren and Holmes with Cabrera. You could sprinkle in somebody like DJ Hers, who we've seen some, risk reward ceiling from at times. Gibson is probably your safer option, maybe a little added strikeout upside against the Reds, but he's generally not a high strikeout guy. I don't have a really hot take on any of these other guys. We haven't seen any form in like a year plus from Walker Buehler. So it is worth noting, though, that he got up to 85 pitches in his last rehab start. So there probably won't be a firm pitch limit on Walker Buehler. I'm not going there, but just felt like that was worth passing along. Cobb would be the other maybe cheap guy that I think you could throw some darts at. But it's just because of the nature of this pitching slate. If you're in that cheap range at likely reduced ownership, I would prefer Cobb over Peterson if you are choosing between the two. And really, that's probably all the time we should spend on pitching tonight.
Okay, did get this question from Eric. Is Ray a must in DK Cash? He's leaning Woo Barrios, which I didn't think that would be a cash pairing just based on what I'm hearing. But Cars, what are your thoughts there?
I think Woo is fine. I don't think Robbie Ray is ever really a must in cash games. I mean, some people would say, well, you play him for the block, but his floor is low enough that a different person might tell you yes on that, obviously. I'm going to say no. And I think Woo is fine. I would probably pair him with one of Holmes or Warren, though, as opposed to Barrios.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, we're looking for the likes. That's it. This show's free, by the way, which is crazy. And all that we ask is that you hit that thumbs up for us on the YouTube. It's right there at the bottom of where you're watching this. We've got around 1,000 people watching here, so we're trying to get those likes up. Go ahead, hit that thumbs up for us. In the meantime, let's flip it and talk about some of the stacks and some of the bats cards. What do you like, good sir?
Yeah, so obviously there are a lot of good offenses tonight since we really don't like the pitching. And it's going to start probably with, the team that's facing the White Sox generally tends to rank at the top of the list. Davis Martin is pitching for the White Sox tonight, so that's going to put the Yankees at the top. Worth noting that they have struggled in this series so far. They lost the first game like 12-2, and then last night their only 4 runs were on 3 home runs by Soto. So everybody outside of Soto has kind of been struggling this week. That's baseball for you. It happens. If that lowers the ownership on the Yankees bats tonight, you can just kind of say thanks and go with that. The Cardinals-Reds game, good park environment for offense. That game has a total of 9.5 and is basically a pick 'em. I'm on kind of the anti-Cardinals train right now. They really haven't looked good at the plate. Cincinnati against Gibson, he tends to not get blown up. So I like those teams. I think they kind of fall in the middle of the pack for me. If you're going for upside, I would prefer a team like the Dodgers against Montas or the Mets against Oakland. Obviously, they've been playing really good baseball. The Mets have in the second half. So I probably rank them Yankees, Dodgers, Mets as my top 3, with the Cardinals and Reds kind of falling in somewhere behind there. And obviously, I like Cabrera quite a bit, so I'll be underweight on the Phillies, but you can always stack against Cabrera. Same thing, you can always stack the Orioles power guys against a lefty. So Baltimore would kind of be in that mix too. But top 3 officially, probably Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, in that order, I think.
Great. Cheese, I'm curious about your top 3, or maybe, your tier ranking, however you want to do it. Where do you stack them?
I'd love to tell you something different, but it's Yankees, Dodgers, Mets.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, that's really very clearly my top three as well. And then I go Phillies, Braves, Cardinals, Reds.
Okay. Similar thoughts. Let's go around the horn position by position. Cheese, lead us off with some catcher talk.
So every position has a ton of great plays. Like I love catcher, but I love every position.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of guys like jammed in between like Austin Wells at 3,900 and Will Smith at 4,700. You got Wells, you got Smith, you got Langelier, you got Tyler Stevenson, you got Logan O'Hoppe, you got Cal Raleigh. I love every single one of those guys. I really do. Like I would play Wells in cash. I lean towards Raleigh or Langelier or Smith in tournaments in that order. And I don't even mind spending up to Contreras to be different. But I don't love punting outside of stacks because of how strong it is from Wells on up.
Wow. Okay. Cards, your thoughts on catcher?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same. We were still waiting on a Toronto lineup for what it's worth. I'm keeping an eye out for it because I kind of do like some Toronto bats as cheaper options tonight. I didn't mention them in the stacks, but and they certainly aren't the top 5 stack. But if we get that lineup, we'll pass it along. I just thought of it because I sorted the catchers by projected ownership, and I see Kirk at the top there, and he's fine. I mean, he's cheap enough. But if he ends up being chalky, I mean, some of those pivots I think make a lot of sense because we have quite a few catchers that are hitting in decent lineup spots. Obviously, Wells has been hitting cleanup quite a bit. He's going to be the more popular play. Cal Raleigh for Seattle, if you want looking to spend a little bit more, I think is fine. William Contreras, I think, is an interesting one for the Brewers. He's homered in each of the first 2 games of that series against the Dodgers. People will tend to avoid bats against Walker Buehler, but again, Buehler's number is not great when he's been out there over the past year or two. So I think William Contreras is a really interesting kind of contrarian spend up tonight. The other Contreras, Wilson, is certainly fine as well. So yeah, I kind of like the idea of spending up here if you have the salary. And again, you'll have the salary probably for more guys than usual if you're using those cheaper pitching options. But yeah, if you're going cheap, you've got Kirk, you've got Wells if you're looking, or you can, punt for somebody in your stack if you like. But I don't think I'm doing that as much tonight. Trying to get a higher end option here.
Okay. To get a quick question here, what stack do you think is the best contrarian stack against the chalk? Can we stack against Ray? Is that something we can do?
No, that's totally can. We have to.
We have to, right?
If you have more than 10 lineups and you don't have a Brave stack, you're not even trying.
Okay. Would you say that is the best contrarian stack, or is that not even very contrarian?
Sure. Like no, I think the Rays are the best contrarian stack.
Okay.
Contrarians mean nobody's playing them.
Yeah.
As for against the chalk, it would be the Braves.
The Braves are the best L word stack, right?
Yeah, don't say it out loud.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Cards, take me to first base.
Yeah. So first base, loaded position. You're going to see a lot of ownership on the high end guys. And then the Dodgers were another team that I was checking to see. What are teams being so late with their lineups for tonight? It seems a little bit later than normal, but the Dodgers lineup did come out just a few minutes ago. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Hernandez, Lux, Kiermaier, Barnes, and Ahmed. So a few changes at the bottom of the order tonight, but they do have the big bats in there that are first base eligible. Would be Ohtani and Freeman, obviously. I don't mind them. I just don't know if they're, if it's worth paying up for the huge salary that they're going to command. I mean, obviously I've mentioned we're going to have salary available, but you still can't pay, 67 on DK for Ohtani is still a pretty tough salary tag to fit in there. Plus you can also play him in the outfield. Burleson's one guy I think is really interesting. And there's a whole lot of guys that are first base and outfield eligible, but and he might have slipped a little bit lately, but when I checked a week or so ago, Burleson was one of the only guys in the league with, a high enough slugging percentage and a sub 15% strikeout rate. And he also doesn't walk at all. So he puts the ball in play. The Reds are operating with some type of bullpen game tonight. Burleson's still hitting second for the Cardinals. They've got a 5-run total. So he's probably one of my favorite individual Cardinals bats, even though I'm not as high on the stack. Vlad, I think, is a really strong play in GPPs tonight, assuming that Toronto lineup comes out with no surprises, has finally started swinging the bat better over the past month, and now the salary has risen as a result. And I think that's going to keep ownership down, plus the late lineup, the late start. Anderson has decent surface numbers this year, but he's been a little bit more hittable lately. So those are kind of my favorite, especially GPP plays. Burleson, Vlad Guerrero. I think Mountcastle is really strong as well, hitting cleanup against a lefty. And I'm probably trying to stay in that mid-range. There's just so many options. Josh Naylor. You could go with maybe Candelario as well, though he's sitting down in the order. I just don't see this as a value position tonight. And I will, assuming our ownership is right on the Dodgers, I think I'll be slightly underweight there just because of the ownership and the salaries.
Okay, very good. Cheese, your thoughts at first.
I'll be overweight on the Dodgers. I don't think Freeman gets that much ownership. Ohtani will, because he's Ohtani. I don't think Freeman gets enough ownership. And I like Harper as well. Also on board with Burleson. I think my two favorite mid-tier guys that are definitely under the radar are Naylor and Pete Alonso.
Very good. Second base, Cheese.
Other than on FanDuel, where Mookie Betts is at second, like this is the one position we don't have much to spend up on, which probably makes Gleyber Torres the chalk on both sites, and he's fine. But I don't love him. I kind of like Brandon Lau, Bryson Stott, Gavin Lux. This is one of those, like, kind of save it till the end and fill in with where your salary is.
Yeah.
If I don't have the money to spend up, I don't really care who I play. I'll play Brandon Drury if I have to on DK just to make everything fit, or Zach Geloff or something. I just will say on FanDuel, if I can find a way to get bets, or Spencer Steer is also second on FanDuel, so the position is much stronger there.
Gotcha. Okay. Cards, your thoughts at second?
Yeah, definitely the kind of weakest overall position on the board. Agree with the Torres chalk kind of play. I think an interesting way to do a Yankee stack tonight would be to do a Yankee stack without Torres, and then, hope that Torres doesn't do a ton of damage, which happens quite often. And then, play somebody else at second, even if it's somebody that's relatively popular. If you have a full Yankee stack and the Yankees go off and Torres goes, 1 for 5 with a single or something, then you're going to have a really high chance of beating a lot of the other Yankee stacks that are out there tonight. And there's so many other guys that are in that reasonable price point, like just using DK, for example. Stott is 300 more. Lux is 400 less. Jeff McNeil is 300 less. All these guys project maybe a point or so away from Torres. And Lux had a terrible start to the year. He's finally been hitting better, hitting higher in the order, which helps in that Dodger lineup. So all those guys are kind of around the same salary as Torres. So I kind of like that approach in GPPs tonight. And again, I like the Yankees, just trying to think of a way to, maybe be a little bit different. Zach Geloff in GPPs, I think, is really interesting against Peterson. We know he's got plenty of power. He's hitting sixth, which, obviously isn't ideal, but I think he's fine. And if Jimenez is in the Toronto batting order, I think he's okay as a punt as well.
Okay. How about third base?
I don't love third base tonight, which, I guess it's not a surprise. It hasn't been the strongest position, most of the year. But, if we're looking at DK, I don't love picking on Cabrera, even though the Phillies have a high total. So I'm not super interested in Bohm. Bregman's $5,300. I don't think that's probably optimal. Berger's salary has come all the way up to $4,700. Which, he's fine, but it was better when he was $3,700. Arenado's having a bad year. Like, I don't want to prioritize him. And these are all the guys that we have as the most popular options. And I don't love any of them. So this is the spot where I would be totally fine filling in last. Or if all these higher end options go under owned, maybe this is the spot where you spend up and get a Jose Ramirez or an Austin Riley, the righty power against Robbie Ray, Matt Chapman against Holmes. Like this position to me is one where I'm going to look probably not to play a chalky guy because I really don't like a lot of the guys that are chalk. I think, officially, I think Berger's fine, but with $1,000 price bump from where he was 10 days ago and as the highest projected owned third baseman, I'm not going to tell you that you have to go out and play Jake Berger. So I do not love third base.
Okay. Cheese, do you love third base?
I like it a little more. Cards is disrespecting the Alex Bregman hot streak. He's hot.
It's hot.
I already mentioned the L word. I didn't want to go with two things in one night. So
yeah. No, so I love Jose Ramirez. Like I mentioned, I'm doing a lot of cheap pitching and spending up on bats. And kind of like Card said, I think most people are spending up in the outfield. So doing it at third gets you a little different. So Ramirez and Riley, I have a ton of, and I love them both. And those guys are not even Ramirez is kind of expensive on FanDuel. On FanDuel, you can almost play whoever you want other than Ramirez, and you also have Vlad there. On DK, I think it's worth doing some punts. Like if you've got other Yankees, that's where you play Cabrera or play Clement if you have Blue Jays. And I think it's reasonable to get a cheap guy in there or Kiki Hernandez who play Dodgers, that kind of stuff. But ideally, Jose Ramirez.
Sure. Okay. How about shortstop? By the way, we're about 10 minutes until lock, which should be plenty of time to close things out.
All right. Yeah, shortstop is obviously fantastic. Ellie is my favorite play by a lot. Mookie Betts is second. Lindor is third. Abrams is fourth. Gunnar Henderson is fifth. I love every single one of those guys, making it a priority spend up. I do have a little bit of Willy Adames as well. And then the cheap stuff is just going to be in a stack because the high end is so good.
Okay, Cards, your thoughts on short?
Yeah, the cheap stuff is probably not where you want to go here. I'd go there at second or third or with an outfielder before I went there at short. Pretty much agree on kind of that quick power rank there. By far the guy I'll be most overweight on is Abrams. We've got him at 2% owned right now. Seems like he's kind of been under the radar a little bit more throughout the year. Everybody talks about Ellie with the power and speed. Obviously got Mookie back now. Henderson's been getting the buzz. Seager is not on the main slate tonight, but all those guys, are getting the attention. And, Abrams just kind of keeps on raking under the radar from a national media standpoint. And I get it. He plays for the Nationals, but you're looking at, 24 DK points again last night, 30 FanDuel points. So hitting in a leadoff spot against, a pitcher that's decent but hittable. I really like Abrams as a one-off tonight. All the guys that are going to end up under owned here are great tournament plays. Cheese mentioned Adames, Fitzgerald continuing to hit everything for the Giants. All those guys you can sprinkle into your GPPs, and I would hesitate to go with a cheap guy here.
Okay, how about outfield?
Yeah, so I think you're definitely going to want to spend up on one outfielder tonight. For me, I think, and again, people are sharper these days. Everybody that's playing DFS, they're using tools and stuff. But I still think that after hitting 3 home runs last night, the ownership is going to skew towards Juan Soto over Aaron Judge. It's just a natural reaction. The dude hit 3 home runs last night, and obviously he's been, good all year. Hasn't been Judge level good as far as power numbers go, but Soto hit 3 home runs last night. Soto's a little bit cheaper than Judge. So we have their ownership about the same. I think that Soto is going to be higher. Assuming that's the case, I prefer Aaron Judge given the slate tonight. They're both obviously great plays. You're probably going to want one cheaper guy. I think people will, again, lean towards the Yankees there. Verdugo still continues to lead off most of the time against righties. We know the White Sox have a bad bullpen behind them. Austin Slater's leading off for Baltimore. He's basically min salary. I am still nervous about the pinch hit risk there, so I don't like him as much. Will Brennan would be another guy you could look to on kind of the value side of things. Kyle Stowers for for Miami has been getting a little bit more playing time with their kind of youth movement now. So those are a bunch of guys you could consider on the cheap end. And obviously we know the guys on the high end, Ohtani in the outfield as well, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Schwarber. I mean, all those guys are elite plays. And I think most people are kind of going to go to those extremes with the outfielders tonight. The middle tier guys are the ones where you're going to get a whole lot of 3, 4, 5% owned guys, that can potentially make a difference in your lineups. I like JD Martinez. I think Ian Happ leading off is interesting. Churio hitting second for the Brewers is interesting. I mean, those are just a few names. Stop in the interest of time, so Cheese can name a few.
Sure. Some good notes, though. All right, Cheese, your thoughts on the outfield?
Yeah, it's so good up top. Kind of like shortstop. I'll just power rank them for you by my preference. It's Ohtani, and then Judge, then Soto, then Schwarber, then Alvarez.
But it's not just up top because there's good players everywhere in the outfield.
Yeah, but almost all my lineups have one of those 5.
Yeah,
5 guys, you say.
Hey.
As far as the mid-tier stuff, I agree. That's where the ownership gets squeezed a bit. I like Lewis Robert. I like George Springer. I like Brandon Nimmo. I like Jorge Soler. I like Taylor Ward. Little cheaper, I like Jesus Sanchez, Brandon Marsh. I'll stop there. As always, there's just a crazy ton of names.
Okay. What we should do is we should give the people some home run calls. That is something that they frequently ask for. So why don't you guys start thinking about those? And in the meantime, I will note now is the best time to get ahead of the competition with RG Premium. NFL Premium for the season is now available. Non-premium users can get $100 off their NFL Premium subscription. All you have to do is click through the banner on RotoGrinders.com. You can also get a 6-month combo subscription at an exclusive price of $469.99, which saves you $250 as opposed to doing it month by month by month. And if you are not a fan of commitment, 1 month of RG Combo Premium is $120. A 3-day pass is $19.99. Whatever price level you're trying to get there, we've got some of the best deals in the industry. So highly recommend you take advantage of those deals while they are hot. Cheese, speaking of hot, let's get some home run calls.
All right. I'll avoid the super obvious high end where there's like a dozen obvious choices, but go mid-tier lefties, Brandon Nimmo and Brandon Lau, and then random cheap Parker Meadows.
Okay. Cards, you got a few names for me?
Yes, I will go with CJ Abrams on the high end. I will go with Alec Burleson in the mid-range. And then I kind of like some of the Toronto guys tonight. Again, their lineup is not out yet. So if you're placing bets on this, just kind of wait and see what Toronto throws out there. They've got a top-end prospect that I've kind of been waiting on to see if Will Wagner would be able to play, not to be confused with Will Warren, who's starting for the Yankees against the White Sox tonight. But sounds like he's not going to play. But somebody like George Springer or Vlad, I think, are good home run bets tonight.
Okay, very good. Let's get to the QQs, starting in the RG Discord. That is where the cool kids hang out. If you haven't joined RotoGrinders Discord, you should. We answer questions, we hang out. It's a fun spot to be. NBA DFS says, Cheese, FanDuel Cash, last piece, Slater, Brennan, or Grisham?
Not Slater. I would go Grisham.
Okay. JMVP says, Cards, FanDuel, single entry. I'm stacking the Dodgers. Who do you prefer as a secondary stack? Cleveland, Washington, or Yankees?
As a secondary stack with like 2 or 3 guys, I kind of like the Nats tonight.
Okay, nice. D-Dot, Cards, says FanDuel, single entry. Util spot, Harper or Mookie? Those are good choices.
Yes. I will go with Mookie.
Yeah. Let's see. Jumping into the YouTube. By the way, hit us with the thumbs up if you have not already done so. See if we got some questions. A lot of comments in the YouTube. How about Chop's BVP suggestion of the day, Cheese, Fraley?
I mean, I have him in red stacks. I don't have him. I don't have him really on his own. I would play Friedel ahead of him, but all the Reds lefties are fine.
Okay, good enough. FanDuel single entry. Cheese, these are like 2 of the guys that I think you were maybe highest on. The question is Holmes or Warren in FanDuel single entry. They are your second and third favorite pitchers. over there?
Yeah, like very officially, I can tell you I have literally the exact same amount of both of them, and including in single entry, I have them split up one and one and the other. If you just need me to pick one, I'll go with Holmes.
Okay.
But for the record, I have an even split of them.
Okay, great. Let's see. Cards. We've got less than 2 minutes until lock. Mike says, better stack in single entry on DK, Phillies or Guardians?
It's the Guardians for me, but I fully admit that I'm underweight on the Phillies because I like Cabrera.
Sorry, trying to work this mute button with kids right outside the office here. Is Tyler Black any good? Cards? He's 2,100 on FanDuel. He's batting third. Those are solid things.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some pitch hit risk here. The Brewers lineup is a little bit weird tonight. It also came out late. I'm not sure if there's an injury issue here, but he's cheap, and if you're kind of going with the approach that Buehler hasn't been great at the MLB level for a couple years, I think it's fine as a punt. I would prefer it as part of a Milwaukee stack, though.
Okay. Looks like I'm hearing DK is down. Are either of you having any issues?
It was struggling for me just a minute ago, but I was just able to log in, so I would recommend you keep trying.
Okay. Maybe we'll get a little free roll out of that one. We'll see what happens. Still less than a minute until lock here, and seeing what we've got. Yeah, I mean, that's such a bummer when it goes down last minute and you're trying to like update your lineups with crucial things right before lock. That is not great timing. Cheese, your favorite second baseman, 4,200 or less on DK Cash, if you can access DK Cash.
Well, I can access it on Lineup HQ. I like Bryson Stott.
Okay.
Well, no, in cash. I'm sorry. In cash, I like Torres.
Okay. Dean says we got the Braves lineup: Soler, Riley, Ozuna, Olsen, Arcia, Harris, Laureano, Murphy, and Merrifield. Anything there that is different to your eyes, Cheese?
I think that's exactly what we had. Slightly different order at the bottom, maybe, but
Yeah.
same as 9 guys.
We're good at that. Hey, guess what? We have hit lock. We'll see if we've got any questions coming in. Mostly just a lot of people complaining about DK being down. Cheese, in celebration of the NFL coming back, Yappy would like to know if he can play Dak Prescott today at the pitcher position.
No, a wobbly fastball is not going to get past anyone.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, I think with that, we're going to bounce on out of here. So for Cards, for Cheese, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been